Hello everyone, George DeSantis here with the look at the market for the week ending January 26, 2018. Before we get looking at charts, as usual, let's put up the disclaimer, and you should read this, especially those people who are new to the look at the market, because it informs you that I'm not a professional advisor, investment advisor, so you should get that advice somewhere else. This is educational. The purpose of this is educational and solely educational. Let's begin by looking at some charts then. As we usually do, let's start with the weekly chart of the S&P 500. On the weekly chart, we can see a very powerful uptrend. The 4 exponential moving average is above the 9 exponential moving average, and that is above the 30 weighted moving average. According to the moving averages, then, the relationships between them, we have a very powerful uptrend. The parabolic stop and reverse indicator, the parabolic SAR, stop and reverse, is still below the most recent bar. So there is no indication by this indicator that we should consider any change in the direction of a trend for now. We can see that MACD histogram is continuing to trend up. There is no divergence, specifically any bearish divergence, because MACD is continuing to trend up like this, and we don't see any divergence back here. RSI 12 way above the 60% line on this weekly chart, telling us powerful uptrend. Same thing with Williams percentile, way above the 20% line, and the sum of the rate of change indicator is also looking very good. It's above the 4% line, and as long as it stays there, we have an uptrend. So as far as the S&P 500 is concerned, this uptrend is very powerful, and we can expect higher prices from here. Let's take a look at the daily chart just quickly. And on the daily chart, we can see this sort of thing being confirmed here. We had a movement, we had a run up here, we had some consolidation, we had another move up, a little consolidation. We're going up in a stepwise manner. Move up, consolidate, move up, consolidate, and now we have this nice up move here on Friday, and we are likely to have maybe another move up, but some consolidation we can expect within the next week or two, but this market is continuing to trend up. So let's take a look at something else. Here's a weekly chart of the Dow Jones Industrial Average, Dow 30, and the chart is very similar. I mean, it's almost identical to the S&P. So they're moving somewhat in tandem with each other. I won't spend any much time on this. We can see how the moving averages are above each other, parabolic situated below most recent bars, MACD trending up, etc. So as far as the Dow is concerned, we also have a very nice uptrend. And let's take a look at something else. And as we did before, we'll begin by taking a look at some international markets. And we start off with Brazil. And we can see here on the weekly chart what a nice uptrend it has. Now it's touching the upper Bollinger Band, so we can expect somewhat of a pullback because it's very overbought here. But its main fact is that it's up way up at the Bollinger Band. In fact, way above it. Let's see. Yeah, it's hitting the Bollinger Band, so we can expect some bit of a correction. But we can expect, since this is a weekly chart, I don't think we're going to see much of a correction. Now let's take a look at another one. This is an ETF of the emerging markets, EEM, and looking very similar to Brazil. So we're touching the upper Bollinger Band. So sooner or later we're going to get a bit of a consolidation or pullback. But it looks pretty strong right here. Here's Australia, ETF of Australia, EWA. And we can see that on this weekly chart, We hit the upper Bollinger Band and we consolidated, and now it trended up again last week. So Australia, or the countries that are providing the raw materials, the commodities like metals and so on, are doing very well. Demand is up in China, etc. So that's Australia. Let's look at, here's the ETF of Germany. And likewise, this is trending up nicely for the last 4 weeks at least. And we can see that prices are moving up continually. MACD is trending up, and the other indicators are looking very bullish here. Here's an ETF of India. And this one, you can see a pretty nice uptrend as well on the weekly chart. So let's now begin to look at some stocks as we normally do. So as we usually do, let's start off with Apple. I own a whole lot of it. And we can notice here that it moved up in this time frame here, somewhere around November. It rallied. And then for a long time now, since that time, it's been consolidating with very little movement, or some here, of course. But now what is happening is it closed in the buy zone, what I call the buy zone, which is between the 9 and the 30, the 9 EMA and the 30 weighted moving average. So I expect Apple to make a little move from here. And let me show you another reason why. Looking at best choice. We can notice here that Apple is oversold now at about 170. It's finding support. It should find support at 170. I'd be surprised if it didn't. And of course, I won't be too happy if it didn't, since I own a fair amount of it. But that's one of the reasons why I think we're going to find some support here. It's in the buy zone between the 9 and the 30. And that's Apple. Let's look at something. Here's a weekly chart of Facebook, and it has had a pretty long consolidation period here, because this is a weekly chart. That's a pretty long period, a few months actually. And last week it rallied up quite a bit. So it went from about 180 to about 190. So we had a nice move in Facebook. Let's take a look at the best. Now, unlike Apple, Facebook is now in the overbought at 95 on the extreme percentage chart. So Facebook might do a little bit of a pullback again. In other words, it might stay in that trading range between 180 and 190 or so, 180, 189. We'll see what happens there, but it is overbought according to this kind of a chart, okay? Going to the extreme levels. Let's take a look at something. Here's a weekly chart of Berkshire Hathaway, the B shares. We own some of this. So recently, from about early December, it's been rallying nicely all the way from about 185 or so, it seems like, all the way up to 217. So that's a nice rally on Berkshire. And we have a nice looking MACD histogram, very bullish. Likewise, the RSI 12 and percent R and the sum of the rate of change indicator. So Berkshire looks to be in good shape here. Look at something else. Now, before we go on to another stock, on the best choice chart, the 3-line chart as I call it, we can see that Berkshire is overbought, but it can remain overbought for a while in a nice uptrend, as it is now. So it is overbought, but that can continue for a while. Here's a weekly chart of Visa, another one of my favorites. Steady Eddie, as I say. And you can see what a nice uptrend it had here, consistent with some of the other stocks that we looked at. So Visa is looking really nice here. It's overbought. I'll show you the best choice chart. You can see MACD and the other indicators are also looking good. But let's take a look at the best choice chart. And what you can see here on the extreme chart is that it is overbought. But again, it can remain overbought for quite a while. But when we look at the seasonals on Visa, I just had it up before, you can see that we are in that seasonal period now between January 28th, right now, and February 12th. We get 100% move for the last 8 years or 10 years, and 8 or 9 years. And the average profit is 6.7%. So we get 100% win percentage with a nice rating of 4.5. And so Visa, even though it's overbought, likely to continue higher. Let's stop and look at something else. Here's a weekly chart of Alibaba, or Baba as we call it. As I mentioned last week, I'm not too fond of buying stocks that are, from communist countries like China and Russia. But I like this one. This is one exception that I would make. Alibaba is the Amazon of China, and according to what I've read, it has a better valuation. It's not as expensive in terms of PE ratio, etc., as Amazon. And look at what it did last week. Very nice bullish engulfing candle. So I like this, and I own some of it, as I mentioned, Alibaba. Now here's Microsoft, a weekly chart, and it's a very bullish chart. I liked it. I own some of it, and it's looking very strong here. Now again, it's probably overbought. We'll take a look at the best choice. Well, you can see that it is overbought. It's at 96. Sorry, it's at 96.6 on the extreme chart. So it's above the upper line here, the 90% line. But as we've seen with so many of these other stocks, it can still rally from here because it can remain overbought for a while. Here's Nvidia, and boy, did this make a nice move in the last few weeks, because this is a weekly chart. Each bar is a week's data. Well, look at this. It went all the way from about 200, a little below that, all the way to 243 within about 4 weeks. That's a nice move. This company is really shooting for the stars. I don't own it right now. I wish I did, but I'm like a kid in a candy store. I like so many stocks, but I don't have the money, the cash to buy them all, and I don't want to own too many stocks anyway. I just own a few, for my portfolios anyway. Here's another one I made some money with in the past, but I don't own it at this time, and that's Align. And Align had a nice rally also from about 220 all the way up to 283. That's a hell of a nice move. Wish I owned it. Same story. Can't own them all. Here's a weekly chart of FFTY, the IBD 50 ETF. It had pulled back here for a while, and then it rallied again, and we set a target of 36.95, and it closed at 35.50. So I still own, a fair amount of it, and I'd like to look at the other one that Innovative came out with, the Leader. And here's the other ETF based on the IBD ETFs. It's an ETF of ETFs, and I think I've discussed that before. What I'm seeing here now is we have an inside bar or a bullish harami, okay, and therefore we would expect this to continue to go higher. I really like this one. We're pretty much at the end of the 15-minute period, so we're gonna have to wrap it up soon, but let me mention one other thing. And lastly, here's a stock, Canopy Growth Corporation. It's really a company that grows and produces marijuana products. And one of my nephews in Canada recommended it, said he was trading options and making some money with the options, the calls. And what I notice here is that it has a bullish engulfing candle. So we'll see if it goes any higher from here. From this triangle, I calculate the target of 39.61. That would be an interesting move. That would be nice. I bought a few shares, nothing much, but just to have some interest. Have a nice weekend. We come to the end of our look at the market for the week, and we hope that you have a good week next week.